Today we're going to talk about insurance and why we need it and why it is different for our industry than it is just for any other business out there. We're in a kind of a unique situation with our industry, and we're dealing with some things that most people aren't. So it's important to make sure that we have the coverage that we need to ensure that all of our needs are being covered, and as well as our customers. So yeah, we're going to get into some things that will help with insurance. Maybe we'll clear up some questions about the kind of insurance that you need and who to contact.
Somebody really
Yeah, somebody was in this fucking...
Oh my god, this beach is full! Oh crap!
The whole thing in slow motion just collapsed all the way down.
Ron Harmeyer is the lawyer representing Hastings Mutual Insurance Company. They're suing House of Bounce and larger-than-life inflatables.
I'm here today with Jackie Shaw of Liberty United Insurance. She's my insurance agent. She's been my insurance agent for several years, probably 5-6 years now, and she's done a really 8 years. Wow. Time flies when you're having fun, right, Jackie?
Absolutely.
She's done a fabulous job with me, and she's always given me the great advice on insurance and stuff. And what I wanted to do for you guys was kind of go over some of the basics of insurance for the party or event rental business specifically, because there's a lot of misinformation out there about what kind of insurance you should have and the insurance that is provided. In fact, you may or may not have been approached by other companies that are trying to sell you insurance, and you're probably going to find out real soon here that those kind of insurances won't do you a whole lot of good, because they're not going to provide the amount of coverage that you want. So I guess first and foremost, my question for you, Jackie, and again, thank you for spending the time with us today. Why do we need a specific kind of insurance, and what is the specific kind of insurance for the event and party rental business?
Of course. Thanks for having me on, Elvin. I appreciate your time as well. And yes, the insurance is extremely important and must have that conversation for any business. So when it comes to the party rental operations, with the inflatables or other amusement devices, definitely the must-have or the standard coverage to start with, the main coverage you want to have is going to be the general liability coverage. So the commercial general liability policy is going to protect you in case of any falls, accidents, injuries, or any lawsuits. Standard coverage limits normally are going to be $1 million per occurrence with a $2 million aggregate coverage. And without going into too much detail, but basically on any one claim, that $1 million limit is covering you, protecting you per occurrence. And then the $2 million aggregate just means that if you have multiple claims throughout the policy term, your maximum cap or payoff of the policy would be $2 million.
Oh, okay. And a lot of the customers that I've run into here recently have gotten to the point to where they're actually requiring us to provide a certificate of insurance or proof of insurance. And Jackie has been super awesome in that. She's on the ball. Usually I put in a request, and within minutes it's back to me and to the customer. the important part there is that now customers are aware of it and they're beginning to ask for it. So you're not going to be able to just kind of skirt around this and think that you're not going to be able to do it, especially for the big customers like your municipalities and your schools and your big corporations. They want that insurance. They have to have that insurance and certificate of insurance, and that's going to have to go in with any kind of request. Jackie, there's a thing that I have been approached with, and some other people have talked to me about like an umbrella coverage or something and how that they're covered because they have an umbrella coverage through their local insurance agency. That's not the same as what we're talking about, is it?
No, and I'm glad you bring that up, Alvin. So basically, the blanket is normally what we refer to as an umbrella policy. And again, when you are purchasing an insurance policy, you always want to go to the expert in whatever field that you're looking for coverage. You know, if it's for your life insurance, you want to go to a life agent. If you're going for your auto policy, again, you want to go to the expert in that field. Same thing applies to these party rental operations with inflatables, because not all agents are familiar with this industry. And the last thing you want to do is buy a policy that's not going to protect you in case of a claim. So the whole purpose you're buying a policy is to be covered in case of a claim, you know, does arise, and you want to be protected and you want to make sure your business is being protected. So it's definitely very important to buy the right coverage for you. The blanket is only available. You can only have an umbrella policy if you already have an underlying policy. So you have to have the right primary coverage in place in order to even qualify for the umbrella. But like you were saying, certain cities, counties, schools do require to show them insurance, and they want to be added as additionally insured to the policy, and that's usually when we'll send you the certificate of insurance as a proof. They want to make sure that if something happens on their premises, they're being protected as well. So they don't want to be pulled into some sort of claim or lawsuit because the incident occurred on their premises.
Right. So that's protecting them as well, the customer as well. That's good. Talk to us a little bit about commercial auto and how that's different from just our regular auto, or just if I got a pickup truck and I got an insurance policy on it, I can go pick up bounces and deliver them, right?
Okay, so when it comes to the auto insurance, yes, most of your local agents should be able to help you with this. So you don't necessarily need to go changing everything. First thing, as you're starting as a new startup, check with your current agent, see that if they can keep your policy as is possibly, and just add the business use option to the policy. Because I know a lot of startups are doing this, part-time or just on the weekends, where they still have their regular, Monday through Friday job. So instead of having to go and invest extra or pay a lot more premium for a commercial auto policy when you don't necessarily need it, to save a little bit more, you can keep your policy as is, but again, double check and make sure that you're being covered for business use. And then depending on the vehicle, so if you have a bigger size vehicle, you might not qualify to keep it under your regular policy. That's when you want to go ahead and look into the commercial auto policy. And most of those carriers are very competitive for prices. So just because you're switching to a commercial policy does not always imply that you're paying a lot more for the premium. There's a lot of factors that go into that rating, of course, depending on the driving history and age and the type of car and the coverages that they're providing you with.
So communicating with your insurance that's huge, and that helps you to get the policy and the coverage that you're going to need, and making sure that you're just upfront and ask them what they have and what they can provide, and explain your situation to them. That's the best way to go. What about, and I know this probably doesn't fall on the new people, but if you start hiring folks and you want to get into workers' comp, what is workers' comp and what does it do for you?
Yes, definitely. As you grow the business, you hire people, you do definitely have to have the workers' comp insurance. So if your employee suffers a work-related injury or illness, that's what the workers' comp insurance is helping you with, to cover medical expenses, lost wages, or other ongoing care costs. The workers' comp policies are always based off of the payroll. So that's how they calculate the premium, basically.
Well, there you go. And I've run into some circumstances where, again, in some of the government agencies, where they actually I'll have to provide some sort of proof of workers' comp for the employees that are coming onto the premises as well. Because if my guys go on to, their property and they get hurt, they don't want to be in a situation where they're having to pay for injuries that were caused by, my job or my work.
Absolutely, yes. But in the beginning, again, if somebody's starting with just, they're going to be the ones doing their work or doing all the work set up without having employees, some of those places will have forms that they can find as an exemption, so that they're not required to carry the workers' comp until they actually do hire people and have employees.
Right. So workers' comp doesn't really apply to you as an owner operator so much. I mean, you can get it obviously to help with that, but it applies when you're hiring people on the outside and bring them in, and it's covering for their injuries and things like that. That's awesome, Jackie. What other coverage do you think somebody might need in our industry?
Yes, so actually, again, because we talked about the general liability, sometimes people think that that's a package and it covers a little bit of everything, including their equipment and their inventory. One of the coverages that I think is important to have is coverage for your equipment. And it's not normally required unless maybe you're financing some items and the bank asks you to carry it or show proof. But you want to be protected in case of any catastrophes. We're in California, so we do get a lot of people worried about a fire. So we do coverage for you have different options. So for the equipment, you can either have an inland marine policy, or you can have a BPP, which is a business personal property coverage. And again, both of them are geared to cover your equipment in case of any losses. It's usually based on replacement value, so depending on the size of your equipment, it can vary. But yes, definitely something to explore, and it never hurts to get a quote on something.
That is amazing advice. And when you get into some of the bigger units and you start investing, thousands and sometimes tens of thousands of dollars, those kind of things can't be replaced very easily. So that's amazing advice. Jackie, if my viewers want to get in touch with you, would it be okay for me to put a link at the bottom here to kind of send them your way and let them talk to you about maybe getting some insurance?
Yes, that would be great. We would appreciate that.
That's awesome. And what I'll do is I'll put that down in the link below if you guys want to click on that. Jackie, I sure appreciate your time. And again, if we have any other questions, our viewers here will give you guys a call. And event rental insurance is not the same thing as most of the general liability insurance carriers out there. In fact, there's only a few companies, according to some of the insurance experts that I've talked to, that will even cover the inflatables and the attractions that go with our industry. And the reason why is there's kind of a unique set of circumstances that fall into ours. There are things that affect our industry that don't affect other industry. And obviously, we're dealing with a clientele that most other industries may or may not be dealing with. We're dealing with kids, and obviously, the last thing we want is for children to be hurt. So we need to make sure that we have the right coverage, and picking the right insurance is the way to go. Event rental insurance or party insurance is designed to cover you and your approved equipment that is installed correctly, and that is used correctly. So there's several different parts of that, and some of this stuff can be covered by your insurance, and some of it, you know, is covered in part by your contract with your customers. Obviously, if the people who are using the equipment are not using it correctly, you know, there's a bit of liability that falls upon them if they're jumping off the top of the house onto a bounce house, obviously, and nobody's stopping them. So, you know, we know that insurance is important, and in our industry, a lot of the customers won't allow you to even do a rental if you don't have the right kind of insurance. Now, I'm talking about big churches, big schools, government agencies, municipalities, big corporations, even some landlords that deal with big apartment complexes, or, you know, like shopping centers and stuff like that. They won't allow you to bring your products onto their property unless you have the correct insurance. And also, you can provide a certificate or list them as an additional insured on that insurance. So, you know, it's important to get the right kind of insurance and make sure that you have it. And going down to your local insurance agent is probably not an option. You just can't pick up this kind of insurance. There's a lot of specialty agencies that cover this, and the reason why is, again, that, you know, they've been assigned as underwriters for particular, you know, insurance companies that will insure this, and a lot of them just simply won't. So, you know, you need to make sure, do your due diligence and make sure that the company that you're choosing, and usually, you know, that company needs to be a specialty company that deals with this industry, can cover you and take care of the stuff that you need. There's a few different types of insurance. Obviously, general liability, and general liability, it covers most of the things that we deal with. Obviously, you know, if somebody gets hurt on the equipment and they're using it properly, if they get hurt because of other equipment, if they trip over a cord or a stake, if, you know, there's, you know, we're dealing with electricity, if there's an electric issue, if there's, you know, a weather related issue, those kind of things, you know, are all kind of wrapped into this, and they're covered by that. And what it basically means is if your product and service causes someone damage or injury, then, you know, and everybody is on the up and up, and it's being used correctly and done the right way, then, you know, they're going to take care of you, and they're going to cover the policy. Again, nobody gets into this industry thinking that you know, we're here to see when someone get hurt, or to try to, you know, put a product out there that's going to get someone hurt. You just don't want to do that. So you need to make sure that your equipment is in good working order. It's serviceable. It's you know, clean. It's properly installed. It's got everything that it needs to do what it's designed to do, which is, you know, make people happy and entertain. There is a product liability, and generally your insurance doesn't get so much into the product liability so much as they approve the equipment that you're going to use. So, for instance, if you're using an equipment that is, you know, built by one of the you know, major retailers, or one of the major providers or manufacturers, they've kind of been vetted, and your insurance, you know, agency usually asks you for an inventory list and a manufacturer and age and those kind of things, and they will decide what they will insure and what they won't insure. So you need to make sure that you're listing all of your equipment with your insurance provider, because the last thing that you want to do is have a piece that someone gets hurt on that's not listed with your insurance. Then obviously you're not going to be covered. And the product liability kind of falls back onto the manufacturer. But it's a situation where your insurance agency is going to make sure that these kind of products are on the up and up, and work for the industry. Premises liability, obviously, property and things like that. We don't have a lot of that unless you're doing like a family entertainment center or something like that. Most of our industry is bringing the equipment to the renter, bringing it to the customer, and making sure that they're taken care of on a different property, whether it be the customer's property or a different property, a rented property or something like that. And there may or may not be some kind of coverage for you when you are on a third party's property. And again, you'll have to check with your agent. I'm not an insurance agent. I just want you guys to, let's put this down, that I'm not an insurance agent. I'm not trying to be an insurance agent. I just want to help you guys navigate to the fact that there's a right insurance and there's a wrong insurance for our industry, and just running out there and trying to cover this with something that is not really insurance to cover this won't get you what you need. Workers' comp insurance would cover your employees if they're doing work inside of yours. Again, we're in an industry where you're carrying a lot of heavy equipment, and you're in trucks, and you're swinging hammers, and you're pulling stakes, and you're wrapping cords and all this other stuff. A lot of heavy weights involved, and there's a potential for injury just from the labor part of it. So you need to make sure that you take that in consideration when you're developing your company and you're building your employees. You want to make sure that they're covered. Don't just assume that you're going to get by with this and not have the correct insurance, because what's going to happen is you're going to have an incident, and it's going to cost you dearly. And it's going to come from one of your employees that is trying to do the job for you, and something happens and they get hurt. There's some things that you need to consider when you're shopping for your insurance. What are your needs? How many pieces of equipment do you have? Are you using them in a facility, or are you delivering them? Are you using them the proper way in a certain situation that may require some special? Is there water involved? Is it tons of factors that kind of go into what you need. What are the needs of your business? And the best person to talk to is your insurance agent, and let them know everything that you're doing and how you're doing it. Having your business plan worked out so that you can provide what you're wanting to do and how you're wanting to do it to your insurance agent, so they can figure out what's the best way to cover you. You need to know what types of events that you're hosting. And again, there's a lot of liability that you need to consider. We're dealing with people's homes. We're dealing with people's children. We're dealing with special events. A lot of people don't realize that you can be in breach of your contract if you fail to show up at a big event. If there's like a big wedding or something, and they've rented a lot of equipment from you, and you breach your contract and they have to hire someone else, you may be incurring a liability there. You may be in a situation where you can be sued even when you don't do the work. So you got to kind of keep that kind of stuff in mind. You need to review the terms and conditions of your policy and understand what you're covered for and what you're not covered for. Obviously, again, this conversation with your insurance agent and these scenarios that you need to kind of bring up and you know, have a discussion with them about what's going on. That needs to happen before something occurs. That needs to happen before you get into a bind where you're being sued or something like that. It doesn't need to happen, you know, after an event and, you know, you're struggling or you're suffering because of some sort of event that happened or an incident that happened. You need to also check with the venue or the you know, whoever your renter is, and find out what their needs are. In most cases, you're going to have a situation where, you know, it's XYZ. You're doing backyard parties. They have homeowners insurance, but they, you know, they have these stipulations, and your insurance agent knows that those kind of typical things can be covered with the liability that coverage that they cover, and also a homeowner's policy and a contract between you and your customer. Easy peasy. You get into kind of a more difficult situation when you're talking about third-party, you know, event venues, or, you know, something that's not designed for this. If, you know, I've put inflatables up at car lots. I've put inflatables up at car washes. I've put inflatables up indoors. I put inflatables up, you know, just about any kind of event you can think of. These can go up. Shopping centers, you know, just everywhere. And all of those customers may or may not have a different qualification. Government, especially federal government, they have a lot of qualifications that you kind of have to know. So before you get into an event on an Army base or a military base, and you know, you have these requirements, you need to make sure you know what you're doing before you get involved in that, because they don't care. And if the day of the event comes and you don't have all your ducks in a row, they will deny you, and you'll be stuck without having the ability to do the event or to bring your equipment in. Know your customers and your venue. I want you guys to know that insurance isn't always your cheapest expense, and in most cases it's not going to be, especially if you're just getting started. Insurance can be a lot of your coverage, and the way that you need to kind of approach that is that you need to build that into the price of your rental. And it means you're going to have to dig and get a lot of rentals done so that you are covering the cost of that and making money. If you have 4 pieces and you're doing 1 or 2 rentals a month, it's going to be very, very expensive for you to insure it, as far as, you know, the revenue that you're creating and the amount of cost on the insurance side. So before you get into this business, you need to understand there's probably going to be a base level that you need to get to. And I don't know what that level is. You'll have to check with all the insurance agencies. Let's say, for instance, that the bottom rung is going to be $3,000 a year. If your season is only going 10 months because you're closed down for 2 months for winter or 3 months for winter, or however long it is, let's just say you have a 10-month season. That means in 10 months, you got to make $3,000. That means that $300 a month is going towards insurance. Now, again, if you're only doing a couple rentals a month on smaller equipment, you're literally going to pay every dime of that to insurance. So before you get into this industry, you need to understand what your insurance is going to cost, and you know what you need to do to get to that point. And the best way to do that is to talk to an agent and get a quote and kind of build that into, this is what I need to do. I know that my rentals are going to be at an average cost of $243. I'm going to have to do, you know, 6 or 7 rentals a month to cover the cost of the equipment, cost of labor, and cover the cost of insurance. So that will kind of give you an idea of where you're at. And it's important to keep that in mind, because the last thing you want to be doing is working for your bills or working for your company. You want your company working for you. If this is your passion, if this is what you want to do, you need to go into it with an understanding that you're going to have to make those sacrifices and get that done. On the flip side, I do not suggest that anyone goes into this industry uninsured, because one incident is all it's going to take. And I'm not even talking about a serious incident. If a kid falls and breaks his arm in this day and age, it can cost you up to $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 in medical bills for one incident. You know, and there's such a vast number of things that can happen. It's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of things that can happen. I, for instance, went to a big event at a church one day, and I was driving my box truck onto the event property, and I ran into their septic tank, and my box truck sank into there. Now, the cost of getting a tow truck out there to remove it from there, getting a plumber or out there to fix the septic tank, and everything involved, you know, it ran into the thousands of dollars for literally just driving across the front yard. So and that, again, that's going to probably, that was covered by my commercial auto insurance. So, but you need to kind of keep that in mind. I've been doing it for 20 years, and I've had one actual claim as far as an injury, and that was someone who broke their arm working to several thousands of dollars worth of claim against me, and I was able to claim it with my insurance. But not having that, it would have been a catastrophe. You know, even something that small, I couldn't imagine something bigger. And all you have to do is kind of do your research and look at some of the injuries that occur, some of the freak accidents that occur. I read an article one time of a kid that literally fell from the front step of a bounce house onto the ground and had a severe injury. He literally fell this far. So you need to watch, you know, the situations, and also you need to always make sure that you are doing operating your business within the confines of the manufacturer's recommended guidelines, and the installation is done as it's, you know, advised to by the manufacturer. If it says that you need to put 8 stakes in it, you need to put 8 stakes in it. If it says that you can't operate in above 15 miles an hour of wind, do not operate in 15 miles an hour of wind. Those are just, you have to do that. And I know no one here wants to lose money. You really don't. And there's nothing more frustrating than a beautiful day and nothing is wrong, and then, you know, every so often you get a 20 mile an hour gust, and you're like, oh, should I risk it, or should I, you know, it's just every once in a while, it's just a gust. Do not risk it. Again, knowing what you know, or knowing what you should know, and setting up in this industry can create a situation where your liability just, you know, will be huge. I've seen customers make claims of the flesh-eating amoebas in the water units. I've seen customers complain of obviously the wind incidences where they fly up. I've seen claims of, you know, property damage where a unit, you know, laid over onto something and you know, it damaged a tree or a bush or something like that when they let it down. So you need to make sure you set it up the way that it's supposed to be set up, and you follow the guidelines and communicate with your insurance so that you're covered the best way that you can be covered. And then you can move forward with your business. Again, good luck, and I hope that it works well. If you need the information from Jackie, again, I'm going to put it in the link below. Give her a call. She can give you a quote, and hopefully give you guys some good insurance. She's always taking good care of me. All righty, thank you.